Good morning, students. In our today's class, we are going to begin with the new chapter, Internal Control and Audit. So, this particular chapter, I will be dealing with internal audit. So, internal audit is the part of your overall internal control. So, in the types of audit, you have already studied on the basis of authority. There are three kinds. One is your statutory audit, then non-statutory, and then your internal audit. So, statutory audit is used to audit the financial statements. Okay, that is, it checks the financial statements like balance sheet, income statement, cash flow statement, notes to account, statement of shareholders equity. Okay, so these are checked in the statutory audit. Okay, but here in your internal audit, okay, the internal auditor, he checks these financial statements. Along with that, he also checks the laws, rules and regulation of the company, governance of the organization, plans of the organization, procedures of the organization. All these things are checked by the internal auditor. Okay, so corporate governance is nothing but the system by which companies are directed and controlled. So generally your corporate governance are being set up, or the board of directors are responsible for your corporate governance. So in your statutory audit, it is a compulsory audit. So the qualification for your statutory audit was the one that is, the statutory auditor must be a chartered accountant, and he must be a practicing chartered accountant. Then he should be a practicing CA in India. Okay, whereas in your internal audit, the qualification for the internal auditor is he can either be a CA, or he can be a CMA, or any other professional prescribed by the board of directors. Okay, so he might be anybody, but here, as the name suggests, he works for the company internally, internal auditor. Okay, that is, he works within the company and he reports to the management or the board of directors. Okay, so what is he going to report? That the work of the company, that the books of account, that laws, rules, procedures are followed or no, whether they are going in the right direction or no. Okay, so these things are reported by the internal auditor to the board of directors. Okay, then so it consists of continuous critical review of financial and operating activities by an internal auditor functioning as full-time salaried employee. So your internal auditor, he works as a full-time salaried employee in the organization. Okay, just like other employees, he also works for the company throughout the year. So full-time he will be checking the accounts, not only the financial statements but also the rules, regulations, compliances, all the departments. Okay, now your internal audit. Okay, internal audit is not compulsory for all companies as per the rules 13 of company account rules 2014. Okay, but internal audit is compulsory for your listed companies. Okay, now then comes the question, what about the unlisted company? So for your unlisted public companies, there are 4 rules. One is turnover. Okay, so the revenue from the operations, that is sales, if it is greater than 2 crore, then they must go for internal audit. Then if the paid up capital is greater than 50 crore, at that time also they have to go for internal audit. Or if the outstanding loans and borrowings, okay, from banks and financial institutions exceeds 100 crores or more at any point of the year, even at that time they have to go for your internal audit. And if the outstanding deposit is greater than 25 crore, okay, at any point of the year, at that time also they have to go for internal audit. So from the above 4 points, if they satisfy even a single point, at that time they have to that is, they must go for internal audit. Okay, so then comes your private companies. So what about private companies? In private companies, if the turnover, okay, if the turnover is greater than 250 crores, at that time they have to go for internal audit. And if the outstanding loans and borrowings is greater than 100 crores, at that time also they have to go for your internal audit. Okay, so now let's see the nature of internal audit. Okay, first one is appraisal. So appraisal means nothing but critical evaluation and assessment of existing control and operations of the business enterprise. So as I have told you earlier, the internal auditor not only checks the financial statements but also checks the he checks each and every area. Okay, he makes a critical evaluation of every department. He checks the standards, he checks the operations, and sees whether whatever the output is achieved, whether it is as per the standard, or whether the day to day activities of the business are going as per the rules and regulations. Okay, so he appraises and gives the report. So the internal auditor should appraise them on the basis of appropriate criteria. So there will be a criteria set up beforehand. On the basis of that criteria, he is going to evaluate the operations. Then established. So the management should organize an independent internal audit department, and duty should be specifically assigned to the department. So in the organization there are various kinds of department. Okay, so there will be a finance department, cost department, production department, marketing department, IT department. So various departments will be there. In the same way, the organization should also set up a separate department called internal audit department. Okay, wherein the internal auditor works. Okay, he monitors every department. Okay, he checks out the activities of every department. Then next one, examine and evaluate. So the terms of examination and evaluation describes the twofold functional roles and responsibilities of the internal auditor. Firstly, the internal auditor should make an examination and inquiry for fact finding. Okay, secondly, he should make a judgmental evaluation after thorough examination. So he should not take lame decisions. He should take the decisions. He should report everything on the basis of facts. Okay, then he should make judgmental evaluation after thorough examination. First he has to analyze everything, he has to examine everything, and on the basis of that examination he has to come to the final conclusion. Okay, and finally he has to give the report. Then activities of the organization. So internal audit aims at conducting a systematic examination of records, procedures and operation of an organization. So he must carefully examine the controls established inside the organization. Okay, so in this sense internal audit can be described as control over other controls. So here, control over other controls, please remember this particular statement. Okay, because in the examination for 2 marks they will be asking you what do you mean by control over other control. At that time you have to write the answer, you have to write the meaning of your internal audit. Okay, so here whenever in every department, okay, for each and every department there will be controlling standards will be set for each and every department. It might be any department. Take for example sales department. Okay, they will be given the target sales. Okay, on the basis of that target the employees need to work. So what does this internal auditor do? He will check on the criteria, he will take the standards and check whether the standards are achieved. Okay, for each and every department he checks. Okay, so why it is called control over other control is because the internal auditor not only checks activities related to finance, he checks your production department, he checks your accounting department, he checks your cost department, he checks the compliances department, he checks each and every department. Okay, he checks whether the rules and regulations, laws are followed or not. That's why he is called as control over other control. Whereas your statutory auditor, he just checks the financial statements. Okay, he just checks whether the financial statements are true and fair or not. But here internal auditor, he checks each and every department and activity. Then service. Okay, so here internal auditor renders any service. Okay, so kindly add the word render over there. Renders any service to the management, not only to the top management but also to everyone. Okay, so he renders his services even at the time of emergency. So whenever there is emergency, at that time he gives his advices. Okay, so no matter what is the time. Okay, suppose if he is working in the organization, at that time he can avail his services, or the employees can avail his services on any matter or point significant from the business, okay, and strategic point of view. So his services can also be effectively utilized by other employees from top to bottom. Any employee can consult him, okay, in solving the day-to-day problems. So if any problems are arising, it doesn't matter whether that person is from the top level or from the middle level or from the supervisory level. So anybody can go and contact him for any business related problems. Okay, then the next one is to the organization. So your internal auditor may render any services to the management, not only the top management but all the other managerial as well as your operating staff. Okay, so that's why, since he has to give his suggestions to all the levels of management, that is even to your board of directors, even to the managers, department heads, to the employees, supervisory level workers, he must be an expert in all the branches. Okay, he must know everything, so he must supervise. Okay, he must give his suggestion to the financial evaluation and even to the cost auditor. His services are very useful to all the employees throughout the organization at all time. Okay, so he must give, he must have the knowledge of each and everything, so that he can give the advices, he can give the suggestion to each and every department, say cost department, or it might be your production department, marketing department, sales department. So if any query comes from any department, he must be ready to give the suggestions. Okay, so I hope these things are clear to you all. So thank you, have a nice day. If you have any queries, you can ask me. Okay, thank you.